Welcome once again to Auto Mundial, the weekly home of all the latest motoring news and reviews. This week it's not actually all about brand new releases, as we indulge in a bit of automotive geekery with the Rallye Monte-Carlo Historique.
We've also got the Volkswagen Camper's all-electric grandchild.
Plus, Volvo dusts off the cross-country name and slaps it to the boot lid of its entry-level crossover.
That's all coming up. First though, the news.
The first month of January came and went very quickly for most of us, but it seems the motoring industry was left twiddling its thumbs, according to the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders. The association has collected data from the UK's automotive production numbers and concluded that production dropped by a staggering 17.7% versus the same month last year. Where the first month of 2024 saw the UK come close to building 100,000 vehicles, the nation only sent out 78,000 in January 2025. Whilst passenger car manufacturing certainly felt the hit, it was predominantly the commercial vehicle market's drop in international demand that led to the stark nosedive. Indeed, the SMMT notes that the UK's commercial vehicle production industry suffered a 41.5% shortcoming. It wasn't all negative though, as the rate of exported passenger cars rose by 5% from 75 to over 80, with Turkey becoming a major consumer of British-built cars.
Picture this: you're a star, an A-lister, a VIP on a very important business trip to the likes of London, Paris or New York. For your trip from the plane to the hotel, you don't want to be crammed into a small car, so what do you hire? Why, a splendidly kitted out Mercedes V-Class, of course. And for the environmentally conscientious, it has to be the all-electric EQV, sporting all the room you could want in the back and a smooth ride provided to you by your chauffeur up front. But in the modern era, brand new image of a three-pointed star is not enough to highlight your exclusivity. Instead, you need a vehicle with pizzazz to attract the pap.
Well, with retro styling, plenty of space, and the guilt-free, emission-free experience of all-electric tech, look no further than the Volkswagen ID.BUZZ in long wheelbase form. Evoking the bundles of charm of yesteryear's T2 or Camper and adapting it with a modern edge, the ID.BUZZ is a captivating little minivan. Available in a number of configurations, inside this long wheelbase model gets 2 rows of seats for a 7-seat layout. Now there is no denying that with its flatter seats, lack of business class accessories and barren rear end, the ID.BUZZ is not quite as focused as a luxurious taxi for the rich and famous. In fact, most of the tech sits up front, such as 12-way adjustable seats and this 12.9-inch display controlling most features. Charging ports, onboard voice-controlled AI assistant, wellness apps, heads-up display, phone connectivity, and all the climate control zones make the ID.BUZZ a tech-savvy space, but mainly just for those in the front seats. The People's People carrier in long wheelbase form gets just one battery option, an 86 kilowatt-hour unit, good for up to 300 miles of range. That will depend on the motor setup you choose, however, as the Pro gets you a single motor pumping out around 280 brake horsepower, whilst the sporty GTX model doubles up on motors for 340 bhp of all-wheel drive goodness.
If dropping the economy ticket for a first-class experience is more your speed, then the Mercedes EQV does still hold a touch of glamour, even with its, shall we say, more outdated looks. In fact, the V-Class and its all-electric EQV sibling both received a facelift last year, but it truly only focused on the model's underpinnings and interior decor. Making for a far more elaborate cabin, this means fancy materials, more screens you can point a finger at, and about as much comfort as a private jet. Electrically adjustable, heated, cooled and massaging seats sit both front and rear, should you choose the captain's chair option. These get glamorous armrests, tables and serious legroom, the whole thing coated in a layer of fancy leather and trim. A car you do not buy to drive, rather to be driven in. Front seats do not get access to the same dash covering hyperscreen of other electric Mercs. Instead, a simple dual 12.3-inch display will do. Benefiting most from last year's touch-up are the powertrains, though neither of the two battery options available are all that impressive. A 60 and a 90 kilowatt-hour unit are available, both of which power the same 204 brake horsepower motor for a respective range of 170 or 225 miles. Worse still, charging from 20 to 80% takes 40 minutes, some 10 more than the ID.BUZZ on the same fast charger. So the Mercedes may make for a more luxurious time when on the road, but you won't actually be able to enjoy it for long. The Volkswagen, on the other hand, will actually get you to where you need to go. Oh, and there's one final cherry on top of the cake. Where the Volkswagen ID.BUZZ, even in long wheelbase edition, hits the market from under £65,000, you won't get your hands on its three-pointed star-wearing rival for anything less than £92,000.
In recent weeks, we've taken a look at two electric SUVs turned into off-road brutes. Both the Audi Q6 e-tron off-road and Genesis GV60 mounted intervention vehicle are rather impressive behemoths. But both restricted to concept form, will never see either of these puffed-up crossovers on the open road. So what to do if seeing such capable all-electric machines has given you a taste of the outdoors and a desire for something beefy? Well, might we suggest the latest version of the Volvo EX30, the Cross Country. Taking the standard city-going crossover and cladding it with plastic bumpers, slipping on larger wheels with optional 18-inch all-terrain tyres and raising the ride height, the entry-level Volvo EV goes from a city-goer to, as the Swedish brand describes it, an all-road car. Based on the twin-motor variant of EX30, the Cross Country gets 442 all-wheel drive brake horsepower, which, in the standard model, means it'll hit 62 from a standstill in 3.7 seconds and achieve a range of around 280 miles. But with chunkier tyres and a less aerodynamic shape, especially with the optional roof rack and mud flaps, expect 265 miles from a charge. For its more rugged looks and compromised performance, this latest version of EX30 is expected to cost a further $1,000 on top of the basic twin-motor model's £46,000 starting price. The cross-country name is not new, however, in Volvo's range. Previously seen tattooed to the boot lids of lower-slung estates, rejigged with longer suspension travel and plastic bolstering for increased accessibility towards more rugged destinations. However, the EX30 is already a taller model built with that exploratory edge in mind, yet few ever take advantage of that broader personality. So, certainly a cool-looking model, we're left wondering why you'd opt for this latest iteration at all.
After the break, mountain passes, snow and ice, and hopefully a bit of sunshine from the French Riviera.
Welcome back. Coming up, all the action from Rallye Monte-Carlo in historic form.
Throughout 2024, it was the Ford Puma that stood tall as the best-selling car each month here in the UK. But hot on its heels and even surpassing the Blue Oval over the month of December was this, the Kia Sportage, an equally popular family crossover that in 2025 is set for a facelift. Well, we might not quite have our hands on the mid-size South Korean here in the UK, but over in the United States it's already surfaced in refreshed form, proving quite the successful update. With a transformed front end, the new Sportage now looks much more similar to its larger sibling, the Sorento. Meanwhile, more sculpted door panels reflect the almost floral taillights for a curvy overall design. That being said, the roof does not slope down as much as other models in class, making for a far more spacious experience for rear passengers. Space is accompanied by tech aboard the Kia with a pair of 12.9-inch screens fronting a whole host of phone connectivity systems and driving assists. Much like its previous iteration, the Kia's bonnet hides one of two engines. In the oldie non-hybrid specification, it gets a 2.5-litre inline four-cylinder good for 187 brake horsepower in either front or all-wheel drive form. For the more efficient lifestyle, a 1.6-litre turbo unit comes in either mild or plug-in hybrid spec, good for 231 or 268 bhp respectively, both marginal increases from the outgoing car. However, greater fuel economy comes at the cost of lower towing capacity should you be looking for a more practical model. As the Kia currently only resides stateside, let's compare it with the best-selling crossover in America. That would be the Toyota RAV4, which sold 475,000 examples throughout 2024 and even surpassed the Ford F-150. No mean feat given the country's attraction to trucks.
Sporting sharp looks thanks to chiselled lines and angles, the RAV4 is just as attractive a car as the Sportage, albeit getting a more rugged overall look thanks to plastic bolstering around the wheel arches. A clearly more rugged approach to design has led the Toyota RAV4 towards a more adventurous personality, even down to its dimensions. It is certainly smaller than its South Korean rival, which may make for a more manoeuvrable machine, but interior comfort does suffer somewhat. Moreover, there is no denying that where the Sportage gets a plush cabin combining a nice layout and fancy trim, the same cannot be said for the Toyota's basic and inexpensive interior design. Whilst here in the UK, we only get the option of a 219 brake horsepower hybrid or 302 brake horsepower PHEV, America gets an additional entry-level model scrapping the electrification. Using the same 2.5-litre base engine as found in the hybridized models, it is good for 203 brake, slightly more powerful than the Sportage's entry point. But despite this beefier power unit, the RAV4 cannot match the Sportage's towing capacity of 1.5 tonnes, managing some 400 kilos less. So for everyday use, the Toyota RAV4 may do the same job as the Kia, but as soon as you need a little more practicality, it will probably struggle. And with the two models starting from the same $30,000 price tag stateside and give or take £31,000 on our side of the pond, we struggle to look past the Kia Sportage.
From the most recently unveiled SUVs to breaking news across the industry, here at Auto Mundial we're all about the latest evolutions of the automotive world. But every now and then motoring enthusiasts need to be just that, enthusiasts. which is why it's time to take a quick trip to the French Riviera on account of a rather fabulous coming together of cars. Classic cars, that is, as this is the 2025 Rallye Monte-Carlo Historique. In its 27th running, taking place soon after its modern competitive counterpart, the historic rally amassed an impressive 219 car-strong entry list, featuring some of the rallying world's most celebrated models.
With its Ypsilon Rally 4, the Lancia name is now making a return to rally racing after a couple-decade hiatus. But this little hatchback has nothing on the infamy of the Italian manufacturer's previous stage slayers. Sporting the name of rallying's crown jewel, the Lancia Beta Monte-Carlo is certainly a special model. But when it comes to celebrated Italian rally cars, surely the modest Group 4 Stratus of the 1970s takes the biscuit. With a Ferrari-produced 190 brake horsepower V6 behind the cockpit and looks to die for, this rear-engine sports car amassed no less than 3 straight World Rally Championships between 1974 and 1976. If rallying royalty is what you're after, then you can't host an event collecting the best rally cars in history without sending a few Audi Quattros up a mountain pass. Sadly here, not boasting all the bells and whistles of the model's famous Group B S1 specification that included something in the region of 500 brake horsepower, this road-going model's 5-cylinder engine boasts power closer to the 200 mark. Another famous Group B racer was the wacky mid-engine Renault 5 Turbo. Once again a privately owned homologation special sporting Group B power figures, it's a priceless motor you wouldn't want to risk on these mountain passes. Instead, these particular examples see the engine sit up front, where you'd expect it to be sending a cool 90 brake horsepower to the front wheels. Be it on the rally stage at the racetrack or parked by your local supermarket on a Sunday morning, there's no classic car event without the odd Porsche 911, and the Rallye Monte-Carlo Historique is no different. Competing in either more pedestrian edition or as a full-fat 911 SC, no fewer than 27 of the famous German sports cars took to the rally route in 2025. And without the modern advantages of trick suspension and aero, these old-timey rear-engine models really struggle to hide their understeery nature. But it wouldn't be a throwback on the slopes of Monte Carlo without a mini or two to show David still can take on Goliath in fair fight, especially in this particular competition format.
A regularity rally, this is not the same flat-out display of driving talent in search of the ultimate time that you would see on the full-fat Monte Carlo rally. Instead, teams complete stages with a certain average speed to aim for, getting points added for straying from that set time. Just like in golf, the lower your score, the higher your reward. As a result, you don't see the same theatrics from the rally's historic event that you do witness from the big boys in the World Rally Championship. But with at times priceless models taking on each stage, we're glad they aren't being risked in the name of a few seconds. That isn't to say these drivers are taking things easy. A slide here and a whole basket full of understeer there shows that older models can still perform on closed road stages such as these, especially in infamous Monte Carlo weather. During the 4-day rally, drivers had to contend with deep snow and ice as well as thick fog, though thankfully the sun did come out to play for a bit of respite above the French Riviera. In total, during those 4 days of driving, the teams covered more than 250 miles across 17 stages, running on some of the most famous stretches of road in the world, like the epic Col de Turini. Come the event's conclusion, it would be the Belgian pairing of Michael de Kramer and Jennifer Hugo that would come out on top of the pile aboard this resplendent 1965 Alfa Romeo Giulia TI. A stunning little Italian family car with a 1600cc four-cylinder, albeit with a little bit of race-inspired fettling, sending a modest 90 brake horsepower to the rear wheels via a 5-speed manual transmission. It no doubt provides an excellent and involving driving experience. And up against tough competition, it is proof that you don't need all the power in the world to compete at the Monte.
Next time on Auto Mundial, a leery Italian hits the track sprinting with a wing at the back and a trident up front.